Welcome to an all-new edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the editor-in-chief here at FLZ. To my left, you're right at home. He is one of the executive producers here, bringing you all that you need to know on comics pop culture. He's also the host of 607 TWS, The Wrestling Show. Please give it up to Rich.
That is right. We are back. It is another fine week. It is another eve of New Comic Book Day, the most exciting night of the week. Well, it's the hardest working night for us of the week, but It's the most exciting night of the week, especially if you're a comic book fan. So, hey, let's kick this off right.
Absolutely. So what we're going to be doing is giving you a little bit of what is coming out at the shops tomorrow, because obviously it's a huge week. And there's one book that is dominating the buzz right now, and there's no way around it. You cannot say that this book is not going to be the talk of the town. It is Absolute Batman number 15. Scott Snyder and Jacques are reuniting. You know their track record in comics, and they have something absolutely wild planned out with Frank Martin and Clayton Cowles. This is going to be the story of the absolute Joker. So if you've been following the universe, we've been seeing a very different version of Gotham City and the Rogues and Bruce Wayne. It's been arguably comics' best series. You can make an argument for it. And what they're going to be doing is finally giving the fans what they want and talking about the Clown Prince of Crime. But this is not a version that you've ever seen before.
Is there such a thing as Batman without Joker? The answer is no.
No.
It's the yin to the yang. So we all know that all roads eventually will lead to the Joker. It just depends on how fast we get there. I think holding off basically holding off without seeing too much of the Joker till issue 14 was a good choice. It was a different choice because most people would go to that super early. And now we're finally getting a heavy Joker issue. So I think that alone speaks the volumes about what's happening in the Absolute universe, especially with Absolute Batman, is that they didn't feel the need to rush out the Joker and make the Joker a focal point, issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. They waited out to put it in here. And I think it's a perfect time for the Joker, especially where we are in the Absolute line and opposed to DCKO and everything else going on. I think this is a good time, if any, to really sink your teeth into the character that really makes the place run, if you will. As our good friend AJ Styles used to say, the face that runs the place. You know what I mean? And in a lot of ways.
Well, what Scott and Nick Dragata, who's been the regular series artist, have done is they've taken their time, they're establishing this world, and they're giving fans something new. And especially thinking about the history of the Dark Knight, and you could say with prep time and all that jazz, to give fans something different and something that we haven't seen before is truly remarkable. And they've done this with each Rogue they've covered thus far. And that is why this issue is so anticipated at the shops. And mark my words, I'm going to say this multiple times during this episode and even on social media. This is the book to pick up tomorrow. This is the book you cannot afford to miss at the comic shops this week.
And speaking of those social medias, go find all those great social medias as well as all those wonderful reviews over at fanlightzone.com. That's right. You can find all of the social medias there. And of course, while you're at it, since you're watching us on the YouTube channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications, and of course, hit that thumbs up to basically show that we're doing a good job here and help us conquer the algorithm here at Fanlight Zone. So getting the little shameless plugs out of the way, because we're going to have a little discussion about the Crown Prince of Crime.
Yeah, what we thought we'd do for this episode tonight is break down some of the best stories involving the Joker. Arguably, comics' greatest villain. I would say top 3, if not number 1.
I would say number 1, but I mean, that's also because I'm a big Batman fan. And it's not that the Joker is necessarily my favorite character, because I mean, I respect the Joker, but I mean, I am one of those people who has gone on the limb. I am a big Riddler fan, even though the Riddler doesn't have the track record, if you will. And I also was a big fan of the first variation of Hush, amongst other things. So I've kind of gone into a lot of directions, but that doesn't mean you don't have respect for the Joker and everything that the Joker brings to the table.
Yeah. I mean, you think about all the interpretations we've seen of the character throughout the years, from what we saw in Batman 66, the television show, to what we've seen in the animated series, to now where he's a larger-than-life persona that's embedded into pop culture. You cannot deny the lasting legacy of this character and how the writing and art of this character throughout the years has evolved and really pushed the envelope is a testament to why fans gravitate towards him. This is not your average villain. This is a lot of his motives are not involving money. It's just to create chaos, and especially to upset the world that Batman wants to have, which is, justice and vengeance for those that cross it. The Joker lives to upset that balance. And that is why some of these stories you're going to be hearing tonight are really classics and really emphasize about what he's known for.
And also, when we're talking about these stories, I would like to point out for all of you out there, we like to say this, these are not a list of like in any particular order of how we feel about said stories. So therefore, do not get all up in outrage if your story is not on there, your favorite one's not on there. Also, this is not like, hey, you guys put this story before that story. No, this is just literally a list of us picking some of our favorite Batman stories featuring the Joker, or in some cases, Joker stories featuring the Joker. And so just getting it out of the way. But we do want to hear from you. So make sure you drop in the comments your favorite Joker series, like series, books, issues, whatever where you like. If you want to even talk about how you were a fan of Cesar Romero's, Joker from the 60s television show, go ahead and drop that in there. And even for our friends who love Heath Ledger, go ahead and drop that as well. So we want to hear from you. So make sure you hit us up in the comments, because we always love reading your thoughts as well. But Ken, shall we get on?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the first story we have up is a classic that really launched the career of one Grant Morrison, in my opinion. And that's Batman Arkham Asylum from 1989. Now, this series definitely is a different vibe of the Joker than we have seen. And his journey, I guess we should say, spoiler warning, him going into Arkham Asylum on April Fool's Day, where the inmates have taken over, is a mind-bending trip. And this one really stood out to me. Dave McKeon's art is just next level on this. And to see that really challenge on a psychological level for Batman, it really stuck with me the first time I read it, and is one that you really want to find out about how the Joker can get under Batman's skin. This is a story for you, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. And of course, Arkham Asylum is known for having some of the most trippy and best art, in the history, and really its importance in the greater comics. We were talking about the late 80s, early 90s, when you had DC Vertigo going, and you had, Image, the formation of Image coming around, around the same time. And to take Batman into an angle where that was different for the time. That was a completely out of left field concept to kind of like push the envelope, with the character and do something different, which now we're used to them doing that. We, obviously we're talking about Absolute Batman, and Absolute Batman has definitely pushed the envelope of the character and changing the character. And we've seen that time and time again, in the line. But Arkham Asylum stands out as one of those books. And with that, it stands out with really having this terrible, evil, psychopathic Joker, and it was also kind of the first time, and maybe not overall first time, but it's one of the first noticeable times where the Joker kind of leans into the whole, hey, there's no me without you and no you without me to Batman. And there's kind of like this, that's where we get the whole cat and mouse. So it's a crazy book. You have a lot of great cameo appearances, if you will, in this, because from pretty much like the who's who of the rogues gallery in the series. But at the end of the day, it is pretty much a Joker versus Batman story, one for the ages, in fact.
Oh, absolutely. Next up, this is one of my all-time favorite Joker stories, and one that I think more people need to know about. Brian Azzarello, Lee Bermejo's Joker. And this story is just completely the insanity that is the Joker come to life. That he is released from Arkham Asylum for reasons, and a small-time henchman, if you will, is now taken under his wing. And the absolute insanity that follows them as the Joker tries reclaiming Gotham, it's just mind-bending. And to see just how completely unstable the Joker is, but yet in fully control. It is one of the most intense, like, mature readers books you'll ever pick up, and the intensity that comes with it, and just the maddening pace that it goes. But it's like I say, Azzarello just does a phenomenal job writing it. The artwork is phenomenal, and when you get right to the end, it's just one of those like, wait, what? That is the definition of the Joker. And I thought they just completely nailed it. 10 out of 10 on this one.
I mean, let's be honest. If there's ever a writer that was meant to write the Joker, Brian Azzarello is that guy.
Yeah.
And shows why in this series, a book. I keep going. It's issues, and he does just such a great job of encapsulating everything that is the Joker. And like I said, it's one of those marriages. Like sometimes you see somebody write something or draw something or create something, and you're like, wow, that was what they were meant to do, and like it's a no brainer. You see that name and you're like, huh. I wonder what he would do with the Joker. And then you read the book and you go, exactly what I thought he would do the Joker. And it's tremendous. Like it is honestly one of my favorite Joker. Like I shouldn't say standalone because there is obviously, other things side him, but it's pretty much a starring role for the Joker and really center stage. And it really kind of lets you in on the beautiful madness, if you will, that is the Joker.
Yeah. And I think especially going for the perspective of Johnny, the henchman, that I thought was a very cool take that we really haven't seen before in this kind of level. Like I say, the story is out there, but man, it is so damn good. Cannot preach about this one enough. Next up on my list, this is one, like I said, I love throwback stories with a twist. And this one chronicles the first meeting between Batman and the Joker. So The Batman Who Laughs by Edward Baker and Doug Mahnke. This one, it just top to bottom. You get your money's worth. This is just absolute old school vintage storytelling, but it's so modern. It's like I said, the artwork captures the grotesque brutality of the Joker, and just to see how they match up in this story is just this is just perfect.
This was a great fit, especially in that like early 2000s run where everybody was kind of like going back. And I don't want to say reinventing because it wasn't reinventing, but like going back with a nod to the past. And, we got a lot of like the stories where we went back in time, if you will, to get to see some first meetings and some refreshers because, if you are a big comic fan, the first appearances of the Joker were completely different than what he became. So to have like this whole like, hey, like I said, it's not really revisionist theory, but it's like going, let's take the character that we know and we love now or hate, depending upon in this case, and let's show really where that character would have fit in kind of in the same timeline. And I thought that was something that was done very well. And like I said, in the early 2000s, this was done across a lot of books, but in this case in particular, I believe that they just knocked a home run because the character is such a large character. You know what I mean? Such a like God tier, if you will, in a lot of ways. When you have a massive star like Batman, and you can have his main foil, be as equal height, because I really do believe that they're pretty much equals. And you go back and you go, hey, this is how this started, and you really get to see how large and gigantic it becomes. You're like, oh, it's a great way. And I thought they managed it very well because obviously the character when it first really launched was not as iconic as it is now.
No.
But they made it feel going back and doing this like it was. And I just, once again, a great story. If you've never read it, you should definitely pick it up and read it. Plugs, they don't pay us, but plugs the DC Infinite for if you want to read some of these wonderful stories.
It's a great way to pick it up. If you can't get it at the comic shops, go get it on the digital, go pay for it.
Oh, go.
We always endorse that.
Yeah, our friends over at Neon Ichiban probably have it there. And as well as I listen, we'll drive it home till the day that we are no longer here. And that is local comic shops, LCS, baby. And it is the holiday season. So it would make a great gift for any fan of Batman and the Joker in your life. Just throwing it out there. Especially if you haven't read it, just trust me. Oh, such a good book.
It is. Another one. This one a little controversial for its time, but one that, I mean, to take the risk that this team did, Batman, A Death in the Family, 1988. What a wild time in comics. And to see that they were willing to put the future of one Jason Todd on the line and let you, the fans, decide. And boy, did you ever decide to have the Joker unalive him.
Unalive. Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Yep, I need to remember that. It's not on the podcast. It was a very, very wild take, but it also shows even in that time frame, because this is before really we started seeing a lot of the darker persona of the Joker come out. Like I said, they dabbled it in the 70s a little bit in some of the titles, and then obviously with one story we'll get to in a minute, that's where it really pushed it over the edge. But this is one that we kind of saw the real Joker come out. and to go the level that he did with the teenage sidekick of Batman, and then to unalive him, and then what happens after that. It was such a wild move to do, but it really brought more attention to the Joker and being the true psychotic that he is.
Like I mentioned with Arkham, where we got a different stylistic version. This is definitely one of, like, we're going to talk about another story. Obviously, we already alluded to it, but this is one of those stories where you definitely got the modern Joker from.
Yeah.
Like the real, like what we think about when we think about the Joker. Definitely Death in the Family is one of those books where you get it from, and not from a stylistic standpoint, because it still looks classic.
Oh, yeah.
It still looks like the part. And once again, obviously we've talked about some books that came out in the early 2000s. We now know the Jokers look different, and boy, we've had other books that might make an honorable mention where the Joker looks completely different. But this is the nuts and bolts Joker.
Yep.
And you really, the sake of it, oh man, it's, first of all, how dare all of you vote to unalive young Jason Todd? How dare you? Like I wasn't old enough to vote on this. So for those of you who voted, come on,
but I'll say this though. Kudos to DC Comics and their editorial team for allowing the vote to stick.
True.
Because let's face it, they could have said no.
Well, they could have said how the vote came out however they wanted. We didn't know.
Right. But kudos to them for allowing the vote to play out. They gave us a great story, and the ones that come after it really put an exclamation point on why Batman needs a Robin.
Agreed. And I will say this, an important enough story teaser that there may be very soon a recall of said story in DCKO. So that's how iconic this story is between
you think
the Joker and Jason Todd.
Well, you think about the character Jason Todd. We'll have to say this for another episode.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying, I don't want to go too far. I'm just saying this is how iconic the story is.
But to think about the evolution of his character, and now too, where we're going with Todd in DCKO. You think about a character that was voted to be unalived and is brought back in one of the more creative ways, because let's face it, at the time, we heard the rumors that he was coming back. They did it very tastefully in the sense of, how they brought him back. Now he's at a different level of popularity than he ever was. And to see where things are going in the tourney for DCKO, that issue really is going to be a must read. It already was because of what they're doing, but now there are levels to this.
I'm going to say, I think it's a must own for collectors, especially because of the callback alone. But once again, that just speaks to volumes of Death in the Family, that 37 years later, almost 38, because of when that book will drop, you're looking at the fact that we can go back to that moment, to that part of a story, and it's still going to light the comic book world on fire.
Yeah.
When those two characters meet up, and every time they've met up in the meantime, in between, there has always been like a, ooh, this could get good. Even when it wasn't, at least the murmurs were, ooh, this could get good. And then now we're finally giving them like a main event-esque kind of quality, if you will. And like I said, 37/38 years later, oh boy, like that just tells you how good that story is.
There's a reason then when they teased the future here at New York Comic Con in that panel, that crowd reacted the way it did.
They knew what they were doing.
Oh, no, absolutely. Hey, DC is firing on all cylinders right now. But to tie it back to this story, they knew, and when they gave that mic drop moment and alluded to what is coming, that's when you got that reaction. So, but it proves about how impactful this story is. And it really started showing about how unhinged the Joker is, and to where he goes, and it is not nice places. And really, if you want to think about where this full transition happened, there's one book. It's arguably one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, but it is, in my opinion, the greatest Joker story of all time. And that is,
what could it be?
I mean, it's the Killing Joke.
There it is.
This is without a doubt the greatest Joker story of all time. And it really puts into perspective everything that this character is. Like we always kind of refer to with Watchmen. There's comics before Watchmen and after Watchmen, and then that's when we really saw the birth of new or mature readers lines, and characters getting away from being good guy versus bad guy, so to speak. And we really started seeing morally complex characters come into comics. This is the moment that happens for the Joker. That if they're, like I say, they used to tease a little bit about the sharper edge to him, if you will, in the 70s, getting away from what we know from his earlier incarnations. After this book, there was no turning back. And to see what they did in 1988 with this book, this is really what put the stamp on it. And this gave you a possible origin. This gave you
it teased
a lot, because there's still a lot of uncertainty with this book, but that's why Alan Moore wrote such a masterpiece with this.
I was going to say, no mistake that you pointed out Watchmen, and then now, of course, Alan Moore is also the author of this. And like I said earlier, when we were talking about Brian Azzarello, you go, Alan Moore, what would he do with the Joker? And like you read this and you go, that's what he would do with the Joker. And I mean, because it makes sense. And it was really, it's a book that pushes the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you uncomfortable in a time where books were starting to become more adult. As you pointed out, this book still was not. By the time this came out, you were not used to being as uncomfortable as this book still makes you. There's a lot of things in there that we can't even talk about on YouTube because you will get flagged for. You can get a lot of things, but let's be honest, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of SA, there's a lot of just it's amazingly corrupt and terrible. But with that, like you said, it ushered in a new generation of the Joker, and it ushered in a new generation of comic books. Because yes, the Watchmen does an amazing job of doing what the Watchmen did, and it changed and made it adult comics. But when you take the iconic Batman and you can move it into a realm where you're like, okay, that is on, I shouldn't say equal footing, but damn near equal footing, especially pushing the envelope, that's when things are changing. And since then, let's be honest, that has been the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
There has never been, like, I get it, we've had him a little crazier, we've had him a little bit more of a criminal, we've had him a little, but the character that's going to push the envelope every time you see that character was created in that storyline. And like to the point that everything we mentioned that came after it, whether it be Death in the Family, whether it be Arkham Asylum, whether it be stories that we didn't mention, because there's so many that you could just pull from, that is what allowed that to happen. I know when we had our Batman Day conversation this past year, we had both brought up the fact that there's before Dark Knight and after Dark Knight. And that's what really kind of changed the world of Batman, like the character of Batman. I really believe that is the case with the Killing Joke. There is before Killing Joke Joker, and then there's after. And yes, they did give him a little bit of a harder edge before this, but after there was no turning back, because how could you?
No,
there's no way. There's no way after you see what happens in this book that you could ever turn around and go, hey, the Joker's just a misunderstood psychopath.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't. It was methodical. It was brutal. It was some of the hardest things to ever watch.
Oh, it's a disturbing read.
Yeah.
To put it mildly. But it really unveiled the true form of evil. And that is what the Joker is. And it really left fans uncomfortable, because this is the truth of the character, the one that was unveiled. And you see so many interpretations of that now. You think about the late Heath Ledger's performance in the Dark Knight movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is heavily influenced by this.
Mm-hmm.
You think about even the animated series and how Mark Hamill approached that character. There's a definite influence there.
Mm-hmm.
And then every incarnation that we've seen in the years after in the comics, to even when they did the New 52, like there's a heavy Killing Joke influence on the Scott Snyder Greg Capullo run.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And to think like where it's going now in the comics, and especially to see where it all began. Like I say, that's why this book has to be on this list. That's why the book, I don't think there's any argument. This is the greatest Joker story ever.
Also, arguably one of the greatest ends of a book ever.
Oh yeah.
Like it has I don't know, I shouldn't call it a cliffhanger. It has the American Psycho ending. Where you be the judge on what happens.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't show you, but you can be the judge. And I know that when they did the animated movie, they kind of put a stamp on what happened, if you will, but the book still doesn't really share the tale. And it's just a tremendous read. Yes, be forewarned, it is very triggering because it is very disturbing. And I don't think you can, I don't know how you get away with that now, but they're pushing the envelope, right now with the absolute line. So I give them credit there. But you need to have that. I think you have to have that to show the character and what what you're going to go through. And there's so many other books that we didn't mention that you could have mentioned. There's a ton of let's be honest, the Joker is, like pointed out, he's as iconic as Batman is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think that when you talk about the greatest villains, I have no problem saying that he's number one. You can argue 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's hard to argue that the Joker isn't, because all the other villains, albeit cool, I don't think any of them live up to the fact that they're on equal footing with the hero that they're fighting against in a lot of cases. Usually the hero still is a little edged out. And I really believe that Batman, which is one of the most iconic and popular comic book creations of all time, I think that possibly is the best, as far as 1A, 1B with Superman, as far as when you're talking about comic book creations, right?
Yeah.
If you can create a villain that is equal footing to him, and no disrespect to Lex Luthor, but Lex Luthor has never been as cool as Superman. You know what I mean? The Joker, on the other hand, has been as cool as Batman, and sometimes cooler, because we all remember Jack Nicholson being the Joker in the original 89 movie. We remember Heath Ledger. Like there's Mark Hamill. There's so many, like the character itself, not just in the books, but in pop culture has.
That's where I was going to go with, because you see that crossover appeal that happens.
Yeah.
And when you can make that happen, whatever the character, even to kind of flip universes a bit, that's why Deadpool is as popular as he is, because when you can cross over into that pop culture audience, you raise your stock up that much higher, because now you're transcending comics. And when the Joker did this, like you alluded to with Batman 89, because that does have a little bit of the Killing Joke influence.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's when you start seeing how this book is where it is at.
Yeah, tremendous. And like I said, there's so many others. I enjoyed White Knight. That was a good run. You can, I know it's not a traditional Joker story, but Batman Who Laughs is definitely heavily influenced, especially by, I would say, a mixture of the Arkham and Killing Joke Joker, creating a new character, if you will. So there's like so many different things, and there's so many different ways that they've gone with this, that you're just kind of like, when you stand back in awe and you're looking at this issue 15, which is, what sparked this conversation. Because don't get it twisted. There's a lot of great books, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them in a minute, but Absolute Batman number 15 is going to be the big book of the week. And the reason why is because when you have the Joker involved in a story, this is going to be our first, like I said, you got a little tease of him. You've seen a little bit of him coming into this, but this is going to be we're getting the full, and you're going to now unleash that into this world, a world that's unpredictable as it is. You're going to take the most unpredictable element and the most unpredictable character, and you're going to put him into an unpredictable environment. You can only have big buckets of win there, and that's why I think we're still in a great play. The reason why Batman is still over, the reason why the Joker is still over, and we're talking about characters, well, in Batman's case, it's almost 100 years old. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's still one of the top, still one of the top selling books, still one of the top characters, most iconic characters of all time. And Joker's not far behind. You're dealing with certain iterations of the Joker that go back not 100, but you're pushing 80 years. And there's a reason why these characters are still so iconic, is because, as we talked about, I think the thing that goes across is the reinvention and the re-evolution. And we're going to see another big piece of that this coming new comic book day.
Yeah, like I said, they're shattering the mythos of good character versus bad character. And what we're going to see at the comic shops this week is going to be one. Cannot stress enough about this book. In fact, we'll kind of go into the closing of the show, because obviously it's new comic book day tomorrow. We are giving our picks of the week, and mine, let's face it, it's Absolute Batman 15, no question about it. So DC Comics has a monster coming to the shelves, but there's also a phenomenal lineup of books dropping. Rich, you got your pick up now?
Oh, yeah. My pick of the week, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 13. We know number 12 was the end of the Jason Aaron run. We will miss you in Juan Ferreira, but it has been handed over into good hands, as the new creative team is just doing so many really good things. Freddie Williams is doing something different with the art. It's hard to replace Juan Ferreira, but you don't have to replace them if you can add something different. And I think just looking at the art alone in this book, if you've been following along with the Turtles for a while, you're going to be super impressed because it's completely different, but yet still feels so familiar. And then Gene, oh man, he just, he's won awards, he's doing big things, and now he's taking over one of the biggest books outside of the big two.
Mm-hmm.
And coming off of Jason Aaron writing it. And listen, I mean, call me a fanboy if you will, but Jason Aaron is a tremendous writer, and he reinvented the Turtles to a point where in those first 12 issues, it became a destination book again from a franchise that I'm not saying that it was completed out because it never has been, but it did fall on its ass a little bit. Let's be honest and then the last Ronin came out, really sparked some interest. Jason Aaron took the ball on the headline act and really ran with the ball hard. And now, without giving spoilers, is hard, but you are getting introduced to a whole new world that they don't forget what happened in the 12 previous issues. It builds into what's happening now. We said it before, Jason Aaron gave a layup. Gene just knocks it down. He just literally spikes the ball. And when you see what they do with a certain character, there's a certain new character that is very familiar. When you see what happens there on those last pages, you're just going to go, oh, if you saw the last pages of issue 12, if you've been reading and that surprise, that payoff is coming back. And there's another last page, oh my God moment in this book.
I can't wait to check it out. IDW has been crushing it with the Turtles line lately. If you have not checked it out and some of the side stories going on with Shredder and Casey Jones, big buckets of win there.
You want to talk about a villain that you're pushing the envelope with, Shredder. So if you haven't been reading the Shredder line, it's been very good. And oh boy, is it adult. They really are pushing the line there. Casey Jones are pushing the line with a little bit, but not as much as Shredder. And like I said, this is not they have the kid version of TMNT still out. TMNT Journeys is still out. There's a couple other kid versions, but I'll tell you what, this is not your kid version of TMNT. This is the adult version it was meant to be. And it's very, very good. And listen, issue 13, if you were not reading, first of all, go out and go to the LCS to pick up some of the copies of the Jason Aaron run if you don't already have them. I know there's a volume 1 out in trade paperback, and then you can pick up some of the other issues. Or, hey, listen, one of those kids pre-order the gigantic run, because trust me, you're going to want to read this. But this is a good jumping on point because obviously we're starting from the piggybacking off. So if you read that line, this will make more sense. However, you can also pick up as a new reader here, and you are going to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you definitely don't want to miss it. Huge buckets of win going on with IDW. So that's going to be one everybody's going to be talking about as well. Also from Pat and Joey from our team, Ultimate Spider-Man number 23. So we know the future of the Ultimates universe is not looking so hot. And the series, it's crazy to think, is coming to an end soon.
Tick tock.
Yes. So they've been doing great work over there, the Ultimates line. Ultimate Spider-Man, it's going to be bittersweet to see how this all wraps up. So definitely keep an eye on that. And the Darkness number 1 from Image Comics and Top Cow.
Ooh.
So right now we're in a little bit of a renaissance, if I can say that, because we know Youngblood has been crushing it, returning to Image. The Darkness is a very, very classic Top Cow story. Can't wait to see where we're going with this new volume. And there's so many other amazing books dropping at the shops tomorrow. We can't stress it enough. You want to make sure you get out to the comic shops, go pick them up. And then if you still need more guidance or just want to even interact with us about it, because we're going to be talking about books, because that's what we do here at Fanlight Zone. You want to make sure you're following us on all the social media accounts. You want to make sure you're subbed up to the YouTube channel, because you never know when there's going to be a reaction video coming out from the shops. I feel that we may be having a lot of healthy discussions about what's going on with Absolute Batman and the other great books coming out. So you want to make sure you're subbed up. And don't forget, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, all our reviews are dropping on the website. All of them are dropping 9:30, and every hour after that, Joey is coming with the video picks. So if you want to talk comics, you come to the Fanlight Zone, and we got you all set there.
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to point out, if you haven't already, go hit up the social medias at fanlightzone.com, because we have Comixology Tuesday.
Yes.
That's already dropped. So as you're watching this, go check them out. Some great books from Comixology as well, because their books drop on Tuesdays. But speaking of books,
yes,
we are doing giveaways. We told you last week, we gave you a head start. If you watched last week's, the first episode of Fanlight Zone Presents, we said, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of a head start. The way that you're going to enter in for these, the first couple, we're going to have some special ones. But the first couple, we were like, hey, all we want you to do is make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and also follow us on social medias. So you could get 7, 8 different entries just by doing that. And you have a little more chance because the first giveaway will actually be drawn next week for the show. We will announce a winner. So in this next week, you have a chance to win G.I. Joe Volume 1. This is issues 1 through 6 of G.I. Joe, the Josh Williamson run. Very good stuff going on in the Energon universe. This will actually be the giveaway. So all you have to do, as you saw from that graphic before, all you're going to do is make sure you go over to fanlightzone.com, look at the social medias. If you have any of them, follow us there. If you have all of them, man, you've got a ton of entries right there. And of course, you are already on the YouTube channel. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Just hit that subscribe button. While you're at it, you might as well hit the notification and the like button because we always want to beat that algorithm. But if you do that next week on the show, we will be giving away to one lucky viewer or, follower on social media, depending upon which it is, a copy of G.I. Joe Volume 1. Like I said, it's issues 1 through 6. Energon Universe. Really, really good stuff. You're not going to
amazing stuff.
Not going to want to miss that.
Energon Universe is absolutely crushing it. Transformers is going to be at the shops tomorrow too. So a lot of great books to pick up. So we definitely want to interact with everybody about that. And that is it for us this week. Another episode down. Next week is going to be a very special edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. So you want to make sure you hit that sub button because we're going to be talking the best of the best, if you will. And we'll kind of tease it with that. So on behalf of Rich and myself, we'll end it as we're kind of working through the ending now, because if you're into comics and you want to be in the know, there's only one place you got to go, and that's the Fanlight Zone. We'll see you next time.